So like, can we talk about why every single social media platform out there, from messenger apps to dating apps, even corporate networking apps,
Salesforce is the perfect fit for Spotify,
have begun incorporating music and music preference into their formatting and algorithms? A way to use software to better understand their user base, and also for you to be able to express yourself and let people know what you're bopping to. While that may sound great, especially in previous decades, where artistry was at the utmost importance and musicians spent literal decades perfecting their craft before being introduced to the general public. Now, on the other hand, Dom Innarella can get an on-the-radar performance after one single release that's basically an X-length song from the 17 album. Or as to say, short. Kid had to scrape the last 19 seconds of the song just so it hits 2 minutes on the dot. Bro understands how to work the business by the time he hit high school.
Hey dude, how are you? But grow up. But shut up.
And it's not like, he has managing parents or something, or a team of highly experienced executives who understands just what needs to be fed to the all-powerful algorithms
How would you summarize
to get you that gold plaque.
You make it happen.
Now, I'm not saying Dom doesn't have talent. The kid can obviously sing. But with the mix of corporate analytical improvement and the shortening of attention spans by audiences, a lot of the music dropping recently, no matter the genre, has been streaming focused, where it's less to do with the album, but the specific clips or songs in each that can essentially go viral. Why focus on a complete body of work centering on theme and artistry when you can ride the next trend? Spend the next couple of hours at the stew making a single, then focus the rest of your energy on the press run afterwards. At the end of the day, a bag is a bag, right? And don't get me started on all of the other industries that follow suit. After streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and TIDAL, among others, began implementing subscription-based services with music streaming, which was only started because of Netflix and other movie and TV streaming platforms. So, essentially, a copying of another industry strategy. Now we got Home Depot and Microsoft attempting to convince us to sell away a portion of our monthly or yearly income. For what? A carpet cleaner?
Meet Barkley. Meet the new Bissell Revolution Hydro Steam.
Or a set of software that they try to get us to rebuy each year with no real mechanical improvements? Are we just paying for the year? Now you want us to just outright pay you a yearly fee to get nothing? But the privilege to use the programming, sire? Seems sketchy. One could simmer this down to streaming platforms and the idea of streaming itself. Before the times of Apple Music, Spotify, or TIDAL, artists rely on album and vinyl sales, performances, and merchandise for a majority of their revenue. Even though they only made, let's say, 7% off the sales of a record purchase, because that vinyl was $25, that artist made $1.31. That doesn't seem like much, but when you're a global touring artist, the number of CDs and vinyl sold starts stacking up. Especially when your fans aren't able to pull out any device they want to stream your music for free, you can bet those lines at first day release are going to be packed. Why don't we compare two artists? One from the height of vinyl sales and the other during the peak of streaming. Bee Gees in 1978 with their release of, well, you know. That's crazy. That's crazy. Stayin' Alive was one of the hits of the 70s, having debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Yes, they had Billboard charts in the 70s. Keep up. In February of 1978, selling well over 3 million vinyl copies that year alone. Since we're talking about the late 70s, there weren't really any CDs, which makes the math pretty simple. Using the 7% industry average, and the fact that in 1978, vinyls only cost $7.32, which equates to roughly a double cheeseburger meal at McDonald's today.
Cheesy. Double cheeseburger.
And we're not even talking about the McDelivery or Uber Eats prices, okay? Those are McDonald's.
Hi, Tom. Morning, Jim. Jim?
We'll use roughly 30 million as the units sold times the price. Bee Gees made approximately $219 million for UMG and themselves.
I'm making a deal on this pen. That's alright. Look.
And we're not even talking about touring sales, okay? If they had a good enough deal, which I'm guessing they did,
What color is it now?
You want to know what color my wife's ass is?
You brung it up.
as the top selling band, that's $15.3 million just as their cut alone for 1 year. Now, at the prime of music streaming, which research says is 2017, we have The Weeknd, another top selling artist, who released Starboy, his third studio album, in November of 2017. If we do the same dive into sales numbers, he sold a whopping 3 million copies. That's including vinyls, CDs, if anyone still ever uses those, and wherever else you can purchase a copy from. So, ergo, iTunes, Amazon Music,
I was looking for clues.
yada yada.
Could it be the owl?
For everyone at home who might be scratching their heads thinking, music has really hit a cold spell recently, don't worry! Starboy, the single from the album, amassed around 3.85 billion streams. Artists nowadays don't even really need you to buy their album. Just keep streaming it and everybody makes money.
Everything from his beautiful music videos to his explosive Super Bowl halftime show, he never disappoints.
So even though it's a tenth of the album sales of Bee Gees, it doesn't equate to 10% of 15 million or 1.5 million. Abel actually, from just artist royalties alone, made $14.7 to $19.25 million from just one song. Something tells me he doesn't really mind having lower sales compared to someone in the 70s. And artists can afford to spend even years to craft a spotless project to release to their audience when they know they're going to make it back in a short amount of time. Great projects that resonate with more people transition into a classic, and some artists may ride that song out for decades to come. Quality over quantity. Compared to now, since revenue is generated from a monthly subscription fee and not the individual pieces of art itself, most people are essentially listening to your music out of convenience rather than necessity, relying far more heavily on advertising through these apps and virality rather than consistent talent. When artists are only making around $3 for each 1,000 plays, there's no room to be spending ages on a perfect song when the catchiest hooks and most provocative lines are what hits the top charts anyways. Unless you're someone like The Weeknd or Kendrick, and don't even get me started on stuff like payola, bots, or industry plants. Some would argue the credibility of music has dropped significantly as streaming becomes more and more legitimized, to a point where audience and industry faith is at an all-time low, and most songs coming out sounds exactly like the generic rendition of the genre or niche it's made for. Think about how many hip-hop songs nowadays sound like Cardi clones. No, not that Cardi.
Dímelo. ¿Qué lo que? What's up?
The I Am Music Cardi.
I am music.
Playboy, okay? I can't believe I just did that. Or pop music following the formula of MJ, Madonna, and Queen Bee. Even the country music that I happen to hear sounds eerily similar to the cadence of Blake Shelton or Morgan Wallen. Yup, I'm multifaceted. Or just happen to still use Pandora from time to time. Don't judge. When each purchase price of a product has reduced more than tenfold, it wouldn't be feasible for the industry to continue to spend the same amount of time and resources producing the same product. This magic law works for movies and TV, and sure has done so to the music industry as large as well. If we're not careful, it might be coming for our homes and other hobbies next.
At the lowest prices guaranteed during President's Day savings at the Home Depot.
As businesses usually do, once a novel strategy or format shines bright past the others, many other industries began following suit with their own rendition of the monthly subscription plan. From software producers like Microsoft and Sony, with their Xbox Game Pass and PlayStation Plus, a way for gaming fans to access the top games that they love, and many other lackluster ones that they don't, all for the price of $19.99 a month. Instead of buying a $50 game whenever there's a good release, allowing you to own that game for the rest of your life, you can just subscribe to our library, where we can decide when anything can be taken off as we please. Yay, Microsoft! And you know, they had to double down on this learned strategy with Microsoft 365, a yearly subscription for Microsoft Office, bringing to you Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and all the other Office apps you were once pushed to repurchase every year. Not for improved mechanics or new tools, no silly goose. You buy it again for the year number. But now, you can pay a yearly fee to access those same apps. And if you stop paying, you may just lose access to all the files and documents made during that time. But that's okay, because you weren't going to anyways. Right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Adobe came next, with Creative Cloud ushering the whole organizational landscape to do so as well. As companies such as Dropbox and Salesforce, amongst other CRM brands, have incorporated subscriptions as well. Subscription-based services aren't a novel ordeal. We've had gym memberships for decades now, since that's an industry where it makes sense to incorporate. Gym equipment is expensive, and not everyone has the space in their dwelling to accommodate such bulky items. Therefore, consumers are willing to pay a hefty monthly fee in order to be able to use the equipment at gyms like LA Fitness and Lifetime. But even then, that itself isn't a foolproof method. If the market doesn't evolve, brands are going to lose out on profits, being the main reason which has led to gyms to eventually incorporate saunas and indoor hoops and nets to further incentivize members to join and stay a subscriber. That makes sense. However, some of these other brands doing the same thing comes off a little desperate. Like Home Depot Rental, for instance, who used to rent out moving trucks and vehicles used for major projects. That made sense. Equipment is expensive, and nobody is buying a truck or excavator to work on a home project. There's reasonable room for such in the market, so it makes sense. But now I see them advertising the rental carpet cleaners, pressure washers, and a literal hammer that they call a floor scraper, designed to safely remove large swaths of vinyl, floor tile, carpet adhesive, cork, and other materials from concrete and wood floors. I feel like any hard metal object can complete the same exact task. It's not like you're keeping the removed parts as a souvenir. Go to town like it's one of those paid-for rage rooms and you'll be freaking fine. You don't need a scraper that costs 25 bucks a day to do that. You have passed down biological rage boiling within you, ready to explode onto an unknowing pile of material, just waiting to be removed. It just seems a little bit extra, Home Depot. In the grocer sector, we've always had old and reliable Costco, which has never really made total sense to me. Because why do I have to pay for a right to shop at your grocery store? Oh, just so I have a chance to get items at your amazing deals? Where every other grocery store has to provide in order to even stay competitive? Oh, but you have free samples and $1.50 hot dogs with the drink! Since they own Kirkland, it probably costs them more to make the cup for you than the hot dog and bun itself. And as a global gargantuan corporation, they also have market favor with essentially all brands. And their bulk sales and large quantity structure only adds to that favor. But in its own way, Costco, when it was introduced, had brought something new and fresh to the market, and may just end up being the only one to do so of its kind. Because what the actual doo-doo brain is Amazon Fresh? Jeff really wants us out here paying the Amazon Prime monthly subscription fee of $14.99 to be able to have the privilege to shop at your workerless grocery store. Like, really? Doesn't that just feel like cheating? But in like the business world, it's like being a TA for a class first and then signing up for it as a student later, knowing all of the material beforehand, then just using AI and software to do all the work anyways. Like, something about the Amazon Fresh system just seems like a hack. Let's not even mention how they make sure the produce stays fresh, since the biggest culprit of perished goods would be customer meddling, and you can't really make sure produce isn't contaminated while also replacing the bad ones with new ones with just cameras and algorithms. I mean, this isn't WALL-E. Yet.
Wise men say only fools rush in, but I can't help falling.
Not everyone is as lucky as Abel, as The Weeknd would be considered a top 5 artist in today's time, meaning he most likely has a severe advantage when it comes to his label contracts with Republic Records. Not every artist makes as much as he does from an album or single release, as many out here are literally and figuratively fighting to pay off their loans provided to them by their labels, to where many of them don't even see much payout until, well, they're like superstar caliber, able to take advantage of their own lucrative brands. Since in the beginning of a young career, everything from studio sessions, tour buses, and everything that has to do with the actual costs of propping a musician are paid through the advances loaned out to artists. It's not until you quote unquote make it when you get to renegotiate those contracts to make them better off for you. To make matters worse, many contracts signed even include clauses that limit the number of projects that can be released in a given amount of time, in the name of branding and consistency. When these contracts are set for a particular amount of time, rather than the number of projects that are created, labels essentially own artists for years, even decades at a time. One could put this exacerbated trend up to streaming as well, with many mainstream artists back in even 2014.
Big battle brewing in the music business. Superstar Taylor Swift abruptly pulling all of her albums from the streaming service Spotify just days after the release of her hot new album, 1989.
Already warning their fans of Spotify and Apple Music's encroachment on artists. Even if you don't listen to pop, we all remember when Taylor Swift took all of her catalog off of Spotify due to contractual feuds with the corporation, citing concerns of low royalty payouts to creators and how streaming was unfairly compensating for the creation of music itself. Now, we have come a long way since then, to the point where some artists are better off today because of the fights that had gone on decades ago with music executives, making artists like Frank Ocean, Russ, and kind of Chance the Rapper that much more impressive. As the number of independent artists and producers are popping up everywhere with the ability to do everything that a label can, just at a smaller scale. But when you're making 100% of the profit, those stats tend to not matter as much. Hopefully in the future, we aren't all going to employee-less grocery stores or listening and watching to complete machine-generated content, as there is still value to human creativity and production. As products and brands we were used to only purchasing every so often are all now conveniently transitioning into a subscription-based model, individual ownership continues to be diminished. As a consumer, the real fear lies with not wanting to wake up one day and having to subscribe to your laptop or phone to even use. I was bopping actually.